Hey, everybody, welcome back to Gardens, the Untold Story. We're talking soil remediation today, and Andy's having issues with his camera, guys, so we're going to be able to hear him. We're just not going to be able to see him. I think he does have a presentation we're going to be bringing up, but I just want to say hi to Texas Organic, Silly Lily, and Be the Arrow. Thanks, guys, for being here. Texas, I hope you can stay awake for the whole show. It's only an hour. So Andy, soil remediation, it's a huge topic out there, and one of the main things that we're trying to accomplish to bring biology back is taking out a lot of the chemicals, etc., or remediating the soil to be viable for use. So what do you have to say on soil remediation, brother?
Meow.
Oh, you're just a pussycat now. I thought you were a lion at least.
Meow. I'm Andy's cat. He can't come today. He's not feeling well, so I took over, and I think I screwed up the computer. I didn't know. I'm just a cat, but I'm going to hit the share button. Are we sharing anything? Can we see anything?
Hold on. Let me add it to the stage. Is there organic soil remediation for your property?
Oh, my God. It's working. I want a job as a computer analysis. Hey, guys, I don't know what's going on, but I worked on this soil slideshow for you guys. And, here's the thing that's going on. Right now, everybody's talking about soil remediation. I understand when there's a fire and all kinds of things like that, you want to, and this is standard soil remediation. When you talk to the city, the state, any officials, they have a set system they want to do. And I understand that. But you know me, I always have something else going on. To me, soil remediation is something everybody should be doing on their property on a regular basis. See, right? So
yeah, because we have everything coming out from the environment, from the very air that lands on our property, and the rain is bringing those chemicals, etc. So it's something that we need to do ongoing.
And everything, exactly right. So I figure I'll cover just a few of the bases. Introduction to soil contamination, assessment and monitoring. You have to figure out what you have and if it's working. Physical remediation techniques, which is really easy, and biological remediation techniques. And then you want to, and this is a standard part. I took out a lot of things that they do because they say, this is the chemicals we want to use to kill this stuff. We want to do, we want to heat the soil. We want to do all kinds of stuff. But this is just for the average person and what they need to do for their property. And, soil contamination is exactly what's going on with everybody, because when you get to that level of toxic in your body, hey, isn't it cool? You don't have to look at me anymore. I should have a shave. I really look handsome. I'm so depressed. Nobody can see me. Oh, God. Oh, wait, I know what to do. I know it. Maybe I could do this. Oh, look at the comments. Oh, I can actually, yeah, I am a character. So, but soil contamination is what happens when you have junk in your city water and you're using it all the time. That's soil contamination. Soil contamination is when you use chemical fertilizer, chemical pesticides. Soil contamination is when you have your pest control company come and spray your property. Soil contamination is for your next door neighbors using all kinds of stuff and you're getting it. You may be 100% organic. So soil contamination covers a wide range of things. So let's see. Now it's not working. I don't know what's going on now. Even my show is not working. Oh.
Well, I see your cursor moving around on the slide.
That's kind of weird. I'm having issues with my computer. I think my computer doesn't like me anymore. It came up okay. Now it's like, oh, is it working?
Well, no. I see your cursor moving around. Oh, yeah. Now go. You were there. You just need to click on the next slide. Can you see your cursor?
Yeah, there it is. No, it's screwing. It's screwing with me. Now I see the cursor, but what's it doing there? What's it doing there? Oh God, help me, please! Okay, I'm just gonna. I don't need this. Okay, nobody. I don't understand what's going on, but it looks like something interesting.
You need to get your cursor onto the next slide and then just click it.
I know, but okay, let's try this now.
There you go.
Oh, I had to get off the screen. Yeah, guys, I do way too much drugs. I was thinking about that today. I said, well, I got these whole drugs right here I should do, and my drugs, by the way, is air. Air is really intense these days, man. You got to take a sip of air, you go, oh my God. Anyway, these are some of the common sources of common pollutants and sources. And we know about heavy metals, pesticides, chemical fertilizers, city water, plastic. There's all kinds of chemicals everywhere. And these are just under normal conditions. That has nothing to do with your house burned down or in the city burned down, all these toxins. These are toxins that you're getting on your property on a regular basis. Heavy metals come from all kinds of things. The car pollution, right? It's full of heavy metals. Arsenic, I go by here. I have a device which I don't like to use because every time I turn it on, it says, "Aren't you dead yet? You're supposed to be dead now," because it says, "Warning, you don't expose yourself too long when you're in this level." Right? I'm going. Then they'll say, "Never mind, you're dead." It's like what? And so and so the living here in Malibu, you would think you're out in the country, but the vehicles alone produce so much toxins on a regular basis, and then we're always seem to be bringing home toxins. We have more toxins in our garage. We have more toxins in the food we eat. Plastics. I think plastics is a toxin that overwhelms the soil biology. Under normal conditions, if you get rid of humans, you wouldn't have the plastic.
Yeah.
But the biology could control the plastic if you were to give it half a chance, right? That's what it's mainly all about. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to try to move it now.
It worked. Oh!
Yeah. And aren't the slides good? You get to read the slides and all that stuff. Yep. I think this is called non-visual. I mean, you don't see me, right? So the problem with when your soil contamination is very obvious, right? Biodiversity loss. For me, it doesn't just mean plants and insects and animals, because that's naturally what would happen too if your soil was toxic, but it means the biodiversity of the actual soil, the biodiversity of the biology, because you need a wide range of biology for it to work. And some biology is stronger than others, can last around longer, but if you don't have your whole team, it's not going to function. And so I just broke it down to some system of health risk, because that's what I tell people: if you want to meditate and be holy, you have to have environment clean. So that's a problem, because you can't, we're so geared to the soil that something goes wrong with the soil, we start having problems too. That's the way it works. Oh, 10K Facebook page. Hope this helps. Yeah, Texas. Hi, Texas. Organic TV. Cool, man. Yeah, bring more people up. Bring more people. Anyway, so, and of course, I'm happy to answer any of your questions, because my goal is to help you do your own soil remediation. I kind of like soil remediation, but I should call it soil biology remediation, because I extends it more. But it really soil remediation because, for example, Ken and I like to talk about how the structures are like condos, right?
Yeah.
The army of the soil lives in these condos. Well, so when it's destroyed, you want to rebuild it. So you can call it rebuild it, but remediation basically means to me, you rebuild those condos, right? So it's a whole process of rebuilding the whole structure, the whole system that makes the soil biology work. I like the properties ecosystem because that's what it means. It means everything working together is functioning, right? That's soil biology. That's what you're really trying to remediate, to bring back. But you also have to bring back the condos and the factories, and how they work, all the structures and all the tools that they need to function. Because soil biology by itself doesn't do very much unless it has tools, unless it has a structure to live in. Am I wrong, Kenny boy?
No, you're exactly right. I look at it as just every condo is a cell, whether that's in the human body, an animal body, or a plant body. Every cell contains different components, and that's where we use plants for a lot of the remediation things, like hemp and sunflowers, etc. And that's all that material being put into the cells of the plant and used and then drawn out of the soil. So the condos Andy's talking about, if you're growing a plant, that's a huge trillions and trillions of cells, or condo apartment buildings,
That's right.
and every one of them is full of biology. And it's
That's
the
right.
biology that's moving the materials. It's the biology in the soil, and Andy's exactly right, where, the more of those condos you have, or the more cells you have, the more you can draw up both good and bad, components that are there. So we want to make sure that we have all the good components to have these abundant, healthy plants.
I want to answer Dr. Green Thumb. He mentioned he uses diluted coffee foliar, right?
Okay, yeah.
And
One thing I heard and have utilized is a diluted coffee foliar. I add seawater or seaweed tea. I make great results, totally legit. And Andy, you're always talking about, the coffee and using organic coffee particularly.
that has to be, because if you, Dr. Green, I'm hoping that you are organic. I'm not going to insult you if you're not. But, if you use chemically grown coffee, you're going to get the concentrate of all those chemicals and your tea. That's what's going to happen. You can send it to a lab. You're going to see whatever chemical they sprayed, whatever fertilizer they use, there it is. Where if it's organically grown coffee, you're going to have it clean, as much chemical free as possible, because you also can contaminate your coffee in the process of making it. I've been reading a lot about how you get, the nanoplastic beads, and they end up in everything we do when you buy just the container. I was looking at the study when coffee beans come in those bags, the bags themselves are polluted.
Yeah.
So we end up contaminating stuff even more. It's very difficult not to do that. So this is a process of constant contamination. I just made that up. Constant C squared, right? Constant contamination. Yep. And seriously, so we have to remediate. I think we also need to mediate our bodies, right? Because we are constantly.
As much as we need to remediate our soils, we need to remediate our bodies, definitely.
Exactly right. So these are just some areas that I can talk about, because when you do assessment and monitor, you basically have to learn how to detect the soil contamination. One of the many things I like about Leighton, but he's a soil engineer. He sends it off to a lab, and the lab sends it back. This is what you got in there. Like, I like the one that we had talked about. This nice man. He came, Alluvium Soil Labs,
alluvial soil labs.
Alluvial soil lab, right? As most companies that you do soil lab, they will tell you this is toxic. You have too much of this. Usually, it's a salt, right? The chemical fertilizers turn out to be a salt, but then you have mercury, lead, arsenic, all those things, and they charge you individually to look for those things. So you get a soil test, and you'll just say your pH is a little high. They'll say you have a little bit of calcium. Some things they test, but they don't test for all these. They don't test for diseases. They don't test for the biology. They don't tell you what biology is in your soil at all. That's why you want to deal with a company like I would contact Leighton, have him help you with the soil testing, because you do need to. One of the things that people like to do, and I'm doing a lot more, is I start off doing the lab test and say, this is what's wrong, and then 6 months later, look where we're at now, and 6 months down the road, look where we're at now. And you will see a progression. You will see more and more biology, less and less of toxics, and the salts will magically start to disappear. They don't disappear. They get eaten up and broken up into something else. That's what happens.
Exactly. All those molecules get broken apart, whether it's glyphosate or any of the other ones. The biology can literally pull them apart, so they're no longer the same molecule, and they get used somewhere else, whether that's making a cell for your plant, or it's making the biology needs those components as well. So it's going all over the place. But having the right biology to break those components apart is one of the keys to the remediation. And Andy, the testing that we do, we never really talk about the other side, like we're talking, arsenic, etc. But we can also talk about having too much calcium, too much magnesium, where
That's
you're
right.
putting
That's
things
right.
out of balance, and
That's
it's
right.
detrimental.
That's right. That's right. That's why they call it trace minerals. So if you have trace minerals above the trace levels, it's toxic.
Yeah.
We have. So you think about cadmium, right? Oh, mercury. We shouldn't have. No, you need that in a certain parts per billions. You need a certain like gold. You need these things in a certain super duper trace amounts. You get anything higher than that, and it's toxic.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on now. We're being bombarded with mercury in the ocean, cadmium, lead. And these are things that are man-made that we are producing on a regular basis. Mother Nature does not produce these like we do, right? We're very, very good at producing toxins. If anything else, we love toxins, and we make it all the time. And that's an issue with me, and that's an issue with the soil. I wish the soil biology could come on and say, you guys have got to stop this, right?
Yeah, it would be nice if the soil biology would actually be able to communicate in different ways than it does. But a lot of it does show, a certain thing. Like you've got plants that aren't doing well. All of a sudden you got brown leaves, you got bugs.
There you go. There you go.
Going like, hello, we're in trouble down here.
That's exactly right. So the way the language, right, the way we communicate, some we wave, we do stuff, but the way plants basically tell us, oh, look, I'm being attacked by this disease, dude, or this bug is eating me. Look at it. See the leaves, all the holes in there. See this disease? And they're very ashamed of that. They go, look, I have issues here, right? And the issue always comes down to the soil biology is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. That is the key to it. The people say, well, how can you tell if you have, toxins? And these are, for example, I was talking bioremediation and phytophill remediation. It's really very cool ways. These are very, very easy to do because if you have your own earthworm, if you have your own compost, you're already there. And that's why you want to get the best stuff. That's why, for example, I buy Layton's compost. I find that it has a wide range of biology in it that enhances what I do, and that's very, very important. The Mother Nature always will tell you when there's something wrong. That's why I keep telling over and over again to people, you want to look at what the trees are. The trees, for example, trees communicate, right? They communicate to other trees. They communicate to people, birds, and stuff. Yeah, and when you see a disease on a tree, it's telling other trees, I have a problem here. There's something wrong. And because it can't really cure itself unless the organisms, the biology is there. Humans think that we can just spray this or spray that because it's a chemical that goes after the effects, not the cause.
Well, and that's the same with our medical industry. We've become so, take the aspirin to get, rid of your headache. Oh, it works in minutes. We expect that to work for our soils. And unfortunately, that's not how Mother Nature built this system. It's based on a little bit of time to make these things happen.
One of the things about you guys talking about Epsom salts, you always have to be careful adding Epsom salt. It's one of those things. Remember, it's the salt, SALT. You add too much, it quickly becomes toxic. The best way I've learned from experience, if I feel like I have to add some magnesium, is to do it in the way Mother Nature does. Mother Nature does not add anything by itself. It's usually a balance of all kinds of things added at one time. That's the key. When you make compost, you don't make compost of any one product. You don't make compost with just calcium. Your compost will have 96 trace minerals, right? That's why I always say 96 trace minerals is what you want. You don't want to key into any one particular trace minerals. When you're missing magnesium, and that's what it is, magnesium sulfate. It's a salt. So people like our friend says, don't be a moron, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's what usually happens. People tend to add more than they have other problems. cost from adding more. So whenever you have a disease or a pest, the first thing is that you have to realize there's something going on with my soil. That's the soil sending signals through the plants, through the trees. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like with when you have a fox, the fox will sit there, or a wolf will sit there and look at the herd. And there's one that's limping and having a hard time. That's the one you'll go after. He reads that, right? So that's the same thing with us, but in a different way. Because when plants are sick, the biology goes. That's there's different kinds of biology, but there's biology that we call it disease, right? Right?
Yeah.
And that disease is geared. That disease is geared. Oh, look, I can flourish in that environment. And what makes it flourish is because it doesn't have all the trace minerals to keep me at bay. So I'm going to go nuts, and I'm doing my job. My job is to recycle that tree, that plant, whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's where, and we mentioned it already, the Epsom salts, like Lily's using just very sparingly on a rose bush, but it can very quickly, for people that don't grasp the essence of less is more, they very quickly throw things out of balance, and then they're trying to throw something else on to correct that problem, and then something else on to correct,
right.
It's compounds very, very quickly, and your plant season is very short.
And I think that Silly must be saying that she uses Epsom salt. She sprays it, I bet you. She doesn't put it into the ground. Is that right, Silly?
She's just sprinkling some on top and letting Mother Nature water it in. It's for her roses. She wants them to bud a little bit better.
Yeah. I tried when I was young. I got it. People would say, Epsom salt. You want to use it for this. You want to use it for that. I got even better results when I had a blend. So my compost. When I made it, I made sure that it had the proper level of magnesium. But if you have magnesium and not enough calcium, no amount of magnesium will become available. Calcium is the doorway to a variety of other minerals. So one of the things that I learned very quickly, because I worked with roses almost all my life. I can make roses bloom like crazy. Is never key into one particular trace minerals. Always give it a blend. So I would get in the habit of spray your roses with the best compost that Ken makes, because he probably has a nice balanced diet and probably have enough magnesium in there. And you have to be careful. I mean, obviously you learn how to add a little bit, but what very few people tend to add more. And then next thing you know, you have all kinds of other signs that the system is it's detoxifying from too much magnesium. Very easy to have too much magnesium. Very easy to have too much iron. It's very easy, right? So that I learned that, especially if you are using something that's a chemical or organic fertilizer is nitrogen rich. Nitrogen will cause all kinds of problems, especially if you don't know how to apply it. Because if nitrogen inhibits the ability to absorb high nitrogen, right? Inhibits the ability to absorb trace minerals. Roses Love Good Garlic book. I'm not sure. Yeah, roses love garlic, but they smell like garlic. So
I don't know that she'd be happy about smelling her beautiful rose and getting a whiff of garlic. I think that might just make her upset with me.
I did that at one time. I thought it was going to be real smart, and I did it in my garden because I would put garlic under tomato plants, and the tomatoes would taste like garlic. It was delicious. I would put garlic. By garlic, I mean garlic bulbs. I plant garlic under the plants. And I love planting garlic under roses, except that people will come and go, and they would stare, and they'd be quiet. They'd be staring, and we go, honey, I'm hungry. I think we should go eat something now. And basically, they were smelling the garlic, and it's kind of weird. You smell a rose, you go, ooh, that smells like garlic. So it's kind of it throws people off, but it does the job. But I wouldn't do it, because that's one of the advantages of growing roses, right? Is they have, you can do other things. So besides garlic is a systemic. It can be used for a wide variety of bugs and diseases, only because it scrambles their ability to see the plant. Because the garlic will travel through the airwaves, and they'll pick it up in an antenna, and they say, Captain, I can't focus in on that plant, So yeah, that's what it does. It's like certain frequencies that scrambles it, and they can't focus on that plant, and they go on to other plants. So, but the Roses Love Garlic. I remember that book. I think there's a book called Roses Love Garlic.
Well, that's what they're talking about, Andy, and that it's a Roses Love Garlic is the book itself.
Yeah. I kind of remember that because a long time ago I remember reading it. And I go, yep, yeah. It's not just roses. You can use it on wide variety. Like I said, tomatoes. So if you have if you're having a problem with your soil and you can't get it together and your plants are your tomatoes are getting attacked, grow some garlic at the base of the plant, and the bugs will leave your garlic alone. Also, the garlic has iron and calcium and magnesium as well as calcium too. So it gives you that. It's one of the things that makes it work.
If you want the garlic flavor in your salsa, make sure you plant the garlic beside the tomatoes because that adds the garlic flavor into the salsa. Tomatoes as well. So hey, like some people, that would be just the cat's meow.
Yeah. So and also too, different types of garlic have different flavors. So I used to plant what's the name of the elephant garlic?
Yeah.
Boy, you can smell it 2 blocks away. Right. So when I did the elephant garlic, I basically planted around the property rather than anywhere near the plants. The bugs would have to go through there in order to get to the plant. It says here, learned banana. Learned banana peel will break up. Yeah, right. Banana peels are very high in phosphorus, and phosphorus will do that to the soil. There's a product called soft rock phosphate. Wonderful. Use. Again, if you use too much of any of these things, you're going to have a problem. And worse than the original problem that you had before.
Well, it throws things out of balance a different direction now. And now you're dealing with more problems.
That's right. So it's always careful to go slow because you will end up having a greater problem than you initially than one you initially had. You see, and it's really very simple. So the soil remediation is a ongoing process that you're going to have to do. It's not like I did my soil remediation, now I'm good. No, so it should be like, so it's like eating. You don't eat once, you eat on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I ate already. I'm not going to eat for a while. I don't need to eat anymore. No, so it's a process of feeding your soil on a regular basis is what you have to do because Mother Nature normally does that. That's what Mother Nature does. So these are all things that I got down here. So you monitoring, you want to monitor. By that it means you got to pay attention to it. You can't do something and ignore it and come back a year later and go, what happened now? There's so many different signs that one of the things, that's one reason why I have a worm farm, because the worm farmers want compost and worm farm are the 2 best ways to bring biology back to your soil. That means that you make the compost. That's where you add all this stuff to it. And if you add too much, for example, Epsom salt, you're going to kill the worms. If you do something wrong, you're going to kill the worms. You go, well, I guess that's too much, right?
Yeah.
Like rock dust. If you sprinkle a little bit and the worms are doing fine, then they will digest it and convert it, and you can use it. But if they die, then you're doing too much. So that it's like a shock absorber. It will tell you. Then you have to buy more worms or take everything out because it's so toxic, right? So having a worm farm and a compost. I was talking about to somebody today, which is more important, a worm farm or a compost. A compost. If you make the best compost, you don't really need a worm farm because you have everything. You have worms in your compost eventually too. That whole process really works out really well. But a lot of people can't, where I live here now, I can't make compost. I don't have any place to set up making compost, so I use the worm farm.
Yeah.
Right. So the worm farm is one of the easiest ways if you learn how to keep the worms alive, and then you're also keeping your biology alive. And if you keep your biology alive, that's what you want in your soil.
So right. Fungi can be used for soil remediation, and how?
Right. So what happens is that when you start the process of, a lot of cases, I'm doing a couple of businesses now. there's no soil there. It's like literally you break your pick trying to get into it, right? So it's a subsurface thing, but you do need to break that up a little bit. But what we do is we take it out and we put in blend it, we compost it and blend it with our own compost and put the compost back. The compost alone will provide a wide variety of fungi in the soil that will attack there. So you learned. So when you make your compost, you learn how to buy these. You can buy these fungi from various different sources. See, and once you run it through your compost setup or your because this time you're making compost for the benefit of the fungi, so you have to grow it in the right environment. And then once you put it in the ground, you'll find that if you control your water, in other words, no city water killing it or no toxins with it, the fungi will take off, and the fungi will destroy anything that comes in contact that it doesn't like. That's the way it works. Doesn't care if it's radiation, doesn't care if it's heavy metal, it'll go through it. That's why you want a blend of different variety of fungi. There's, I would say, millions of different varieties. So the more varieties you get, the better. Rather than say, okay, I get this. Because on my website, I have the name of about 30 different fungi that I get from my super seaweed. And the only reason why I've been using those is because you use it and you see results. You will see results almost immediately. You come back the next day, go, what happened here? What is going on? And it gets better and better. So you learn which products are good at that. Also, too, locally, you should deal with those people that are making amazing compost. We talked about compost. We talked about mushroom compost. That has an amazing fungi in it. Okay, that's why the mushrooms grow, right? So that's the mushroom compost is a specific type of fungi that whenever I can get a hold of mushroom compost, right now what happens is before they sell it on the market, they sterilize it. Mushroom compost sterilized just for you. I'm going, yeah, thanks a lot, right? Thanks a lot.
Kill all the biology that we want,
Exactly. So I used to go to the Magic Mushroom Company right here in Ventura, and I would good evening, Earthlings. Hi, Forest, Food Forest.
Howie from Vancouver Island.
You missed all the good stuff, man. But I used to go to this. It's called Magic Mushroom Company. They sold organic little white mushrooms, right? And they initially sterilized the whole product, and then they inoculated with the fungi, and the mushrooms grow. But when you buy this compost, you kind of have to almost dilute it because you can't plant anything directly in it. It's so strong. It's like very, very rich. So I usually add it with your soil, blend it together with your soil, put a nice mulch over it, and you'll be surprised. You don't even have to feed the thing because it has so many minerals in it.
Okay.
The spores all. And what I do when I spray my stuff is that mushrooms grow. They will start coming up on people's properties. They call me up. Oh my God, mushrooms are growing. What have you done? I says, lady, don't go out and eat it. Don't do anything. It's fine, right? Right. And also too, if the spores and the mushrooms start to grow, the worms would not be too far behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's your fungi. That's your life that breaks down the sand, silt, clay, not so much the organic. And like Andy was saying, it can go pretty much through anything. It'll go through solid granite. It's just going to take time. That's the beauty of fungi, guys. It literally changes the components at the end. If it needs a particular acid, it will start creating that acid at the end. The Japanese, I think it was the Japanese, it was an Oriental, they were looking for the best route for their subway. They used, the mushroom fungi, put it in the soil, and it literally found the perfect path going through all the different types of strata or rock and minerals, etc., to find the exact perfect path. But it had offshoots everywhere, but it would hit something it couldn't go through, and it would leave a little bit there to start eating at it, but the rest, the main route, would go through that much quicker and find the ways. That's why fungal hyphae is beautiful, but you have to have the lore biology to keep the support of that fungal hyphae. You can add all the mushroom compost you want, but if it doesn't have, the biology below it to support it, it's just going to go to waste.
Like Food Forest says, is that enzymes break down rock. I guess he means rock does or rocks in about 600 million years. That's the way it works, guys. It is not. Yep. It's not an overnight thing. It's not by long term. We don't mean a year. This thing where Mother Nature works in terms of millions of years breaking these things down, and so we're in a big hurry to make things break down. So we have to learn how to deal with it. That's why in our garden, the vegetables they grow in 30 to 60 days. You have things that are available. We can't wait too long for these things to break down. So that's why you want them in as fine a particle, 200 mesh, which makes it even easier for them to break it down faster than to break down a rock. Even a small rock, it takes forever. That's why it's called remineralization. That's how Mother Nature remineralizes the earth, but it takes a long time.
So guys, just to give you an idea of that long time, these are in billions of years. The different sections here are the different, like this was water was developed, this was bacteria, enzymes, etc. This is billions of years. We're in this little bit of area up at the top here in the millions of years. So yeah, breaking down nature, it really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and people seem to think that the biology will convert things like overnight for you, and it doesn't really work that way. That's why if you want something available immediately, you want it already broken down for them. You want it already assimilated to a certain point, to use. That's why when
the compost is so important.
Right. So when I make my liquids, I learned that a long time ago. I can spray all I want to, but the plants, I think Michelle said that a long time ago. She says, it's not what you eat, but it's what you absorb.
Yep.
Right. So that means that you have to be able to break it down. It has to be broken down to a certain point that you can absorb it. And so when I started spraying, I realized, because I would do the bricks reading before and after, it wasn't much of a difference. I would say, well, they're not taking the minerals that I want. Because I would buy, calcium, I would buy different sources of iron and so forth and put them together, but they're obviously not. So that's why I started giving it to the worms. Let the worms take it apart, and the liquid that will come out will be the same product, but in a different stage. It'll be in a bioavailable stage that can easily be absorbed by the plant. That's why foliar feeding is so important when I spray. So when I go to people's property, I spray their leaves, spray their trunks. This liquid is immediately absorbed. That's how it is in nature. Nature has several different things going on. One of them is you have this availability on demand, right? In the air, in the soil. It already has processed, and then there are all this many different stages of how it gets to be broken down, how eventually it gets to be broken down. Mother Nature, like when you have an ice age, it's like thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, if not several millions of years first, one ice age.
Yeah.
What does the Food Forest say?
Let's see. Let's bring that up. Soil is made in layers in nature, green, brown layers. 1 inch of soil is made in nature every 10 years in the forest. In the desert, it is almost impossible. Hashtag pathway soil bank to make soil.
And that's the way it works. It's not anything. So if we had an environment that was already working, this soil would have stuff that's already available, stuff that's in the process of being made available for you. And that's what Mother Nature does. It spreads it out throughout the world so that you can have access to all the tools, which basically means the trace minerals. But right now we seem to have a little bit of a problem in that the system, the recycling system is a little bit wonky because we don't have the biology to break down the things that they're supposed to be broken down by biology. We have chemists that say, well, you need 5 pounds of iron, 5 pounds of they need 10 pounds, right? Because they know you need all that stuff, and they also know that it's not entirely available in nature.
Yeah.
They don't realize that Mother Nature normally has it available, but now it doesn't. So that's why when you formulate your mixtures, you want to actually imitate Mother Nature, give it a blend of different minerals and different sources, but give it to somebody else to eat, which is basically your soil biology. What I like the worms. I like the worm farm because I basically took the worms out of the soil and made it a farm, right? So the worms are normally in the soil. They're normally found in the soil. They normally are the ones that contribute. They're the biology in a different way. Worms are soil biology, just many different levels. So here's one of the manufacturers, and that's the worms, right? That's the worms.
Well, they're made up of cells which are have the biology, but in their gut, I guess you could call it, they only eat a very small amount of the biology they consume. And guys, they're not consuming the apple; they're consuming the bacteria, etc., that's on the apple, and they add a little bit of their gut biology into the mix, take out a little bit of what's there to sustain themselves, but they're mainly adding in. That's why worm castings are so fantastic.
Yeah, I keyed into worm castings before I even knew about worms. Before I grew them myself, and in the beginning when they made worm casting, they actually would sterilize to kill the worm eggs. As a matter of fact, you can still go buy worm casting that doesn't have any worms in it because they sterilize it, and that's very bad. So I decided just to get my own. You can make your own worm casting from the worm farm because that's one of the things you have to do. Recycle their castings. But in my backyard, more and more, I just realized today there was some more worms. I was releasing the worms into the wild. It was one of those things that go, my friends, go. Because my worm farm is overflowing at the moment. When I put plants in containers, when I put it in the ground, the worms continue to grow. That's the thing about it's sometimes it's difficult. You put it in the ground, they die, but if you make the ground comfortable and workable enough, they will survive. And if they start to survive, the ground becomes more alive with worms growing in it and the biology growing in it. And that's what we want in the long run. But so when we talk about remediation, what we're really doing is paying attention to the health of our property. We have to stop things that make it worse. So we're constantly adding all kinds of stuff. So we have to say, okay, I'm going to either stop using this stuff, or I'm going to cut it back, or I'm going to figure out some other way. Like city water, most people don't understand this. There's tons of chemicals in the city water. It says, "Are you truly invisible tonight?" Yes, sir, Dr. Green Thumb. Some reason I can't see myself. I mean, look, I have a hard time driving. The cops pull me over all the time. Hey, Joe, nobody here. What are we doing? Give me a ticket for driving invisibly. Can you imagine that? A ticket. I'm going to give you a ticket for driving invisible. Where are you? Here's the key. I'm going, leave me alone. So I got stopped today. A cop pulled me over and it says, I see you. I go,
oh man, I'm supposed to be invisible. Now, let's look at Texas Organic TV. Due to health, I had to downgrade to an apartment now. How do I compost? All container gardening for me now, very new to that section of it.
You just have a smaller little bin. They're tiny little compost setups that you can buy. They're like little trays, maybe not even 2 feet high, maybe 2 feet wide. So you don't need a whole lot. You can put your kitchen waste in there. You have to learn how to feed it. You have to learn how to get your juice out of it. And from there, you can feed your plants with it. You see me? There are some kinds that obviously, so you have to get the right ones, because I know one lady says, I started composting with worms under my kitchen sink here one day. There were worms all over the kitchen floor. So something was going on there, right? I think they either overwatered it, because that would happen. The worms would just say, "I'm out of here," right? Or they
let me make that a little bit more open-ended, Andy, because you can literally over moisture that worm bin by putting in, say watermelon that's got a lot of moisture in it. You can do it that way. You're not pouring water necessarily into your worm bin. Okay?
It's all liquid. It's all liquid. Exactly right. That's why even I have a big giant cattle trough. And I always have to be careful with giving it too much food, because that's what happens. They drown. They can't eat it all, because it's just avocados are liquid. Mangoes are liquid. Right? All these are basic. Watermelon. You can't give it a worm now. You have to give it smaller pieces on a regular basis. Let it eat that before I put any food in, I usually go through it, and if I still see food, I won't give it to them because the worms are like getting really fat. I can't eat anymore. You know. Sorry. Wow.
No, not a problem. And that's where the thing is, and it can go either side. It can be too dry or it can be too wet. Keeping that simple, balance, and like Mother Nature, everything it wants balance. Those worm want a balance in the moisture content. And I know he said a compost under the kitchen sink, but he was actually talking about a worm farm under your kitchen sink.
You don't really
not
want
a compost.
Yeah, you don't want to do a little compost pot setup. You really want to have a little worm farm setup. That little worm farm in your case, it'll be vermiculture because you're going to take your food, you're going to put it in there, let it eat it up, and you're going to have the stuff to come out to use. You constantly have to have a circulation thing going. There are lots of them on the market now you can buy. You can plug into your little water, it circulates the water, keeps it nice and clean for you, doesn't take up a lot of space. By the way, I think there was a Andy's a nudist as his appears. Oh God. Okay.
Are you looking at this one? Is it actually bad to use hose/tap water for garden? And if it's city, if you're on a well out in the country like I am, you're okay. But as soon as they start adding chemicals to that water, those chemicals are designed to kill the biology that's in that water, necessarily bacteria, salmonella, etc. As soon as you put that on your garden, you're killing the biology in your soil, which is growing your plant
on a regular basis. And yeah, so our friend Michael Woodman sells a really cool filter that you can put to your bed and you hook your hose up to.
Blue Sky Biochar.
Blue Sky Biochar. So he has this great filter. When I first started, I went to a hardware store and I bought a shower filter, and I attached. I got filter fittings, hook it up to my bib, and I hooked that hose to it. That was my garden filter then, and I would have to change it regularly. But you do need to do that. I mean, I started that when I first, some reason, when I lived in Florida, way before they were doing fluoride and all that stuff to the water. I never did like watering my garden. No, I never did like. For some reason, I always felt there's something going on in this water, and it didn't taste right, and I couldn't find anything alive in it. So I knew that it was something going on. I think what it is that just assume we're not putting any chemicals in. It's energy-less water. It breaks down. So water in nature holds energy, and when you go through these pipes and you have these 90-degree angles and all these kind of things, it breaks up that energy pattern. It has no energy whatsoever. So it's actually toxic energy rather than living energy. That's what. And then on top of that, they added the chemicals to it to make it really, really toxic, non-living energy.
Yeah.
So there was somebody had asked about, can you make money selling worm castings? You can. You just have to learn how to have a production going with the worms. So I know in Florida, there was a guy who has about 20 different little worm beds. And he would go through each process that the worm beds would get really full with worms. He would take them out, put them in a little spinner. It's basically a little device that spins, keeps the worms, but all the soil worms. Is that what it's called?
It's called the Tremel. I have one. I built one myself for when I was doing worms. But there's like Penny here, kid making bank on $25 for 2 gallons of castings. He even reuses old pickle buckets, all profit. There is huge money in either worm castings, worm selling, the worms themselves, or the worm liquid, which is what Andy's using, for his spray, is the worm leachate. That liquid, there's guys selling $25 for a 10-ounce container of it because it works.
Guys, look. So I'll tell you a secret. So the worm farm is the most inexpensive. So I buy a few things that I add to the worm farm, sure. But the amount of liquid that I get out of that one worm farm, and the liquid it's mainly water that I've filtered out, right? I have city water, nice clean water, goes through percolates through, comes out like this. It doesn't cost me. And I think some of my customers are watching because basically my feeling for charging a lot for these liquid is the knowledge. It's like a good cook. You're paying for the experience of that cook to produce a product. You can grow worms and do your thing. And lots of people do that. I learned to add other things to it, like the biochar. It's really good to add. For example, you want to get the best compost you can make, add it in there, and a lot of times you just have to give it up. Okay, that guy makes better compost than me. For example, Leighton makes the best compost on it, as far as I know, from any human being on the planet. Even though there are lots of people making compost, and they all make. When I made it, I said mine's the best compost ever. But man, that compost really, when I put it in my worms farm, it goes nuts. It amplifies the biology, and then when the liquid comes out, there it is. And so you have to. So it's an experience thing. The better you get at what you're adding to make these worms really grow, really happy, and you're keying into trace minerals, your liquid is going to be so freaking amazing. I sell it. So there are different stations that I sell, and I'll tell you what. So I make a liquid called a concentrate. So basically, what I do is I don't add the worm juice to it, because anytime you add worm juice biologically alive, you have to use it within 24 to 48 hours. So this is one that doesn't get. But it gets the things that I normally would add to my worm farm. Right, these are things that I would add to it, but I get rock dust, and I get the liquid seaweed, lots of different things, liquid form. So it's a pure mixture. Stir it all together. My rock dust is blended with the biology that you buy, all these different things you can buy, mix it all together. I would get soft rock phosphate, 14 different types of rock dust. I blend them together. It takes 30 to 60 days to make a primordial soup. That's a concentrate. You only need to use like a quart of that in 100 gallons. You 1 tablespoon per gallon, okay? Because ideally, if you just use it in city water, forget it dies. But if you use it distilled water and you bubble it and you do the bubble thing, you can end up with a good amount of biology that you normally would never get. And so, but then I also make it in. So when I have a 100-gallon sprayer, so I add 2.5 gallons of my liquid, of my worm juice liquid, to that 100 gallons. Mm-hmm. The worm juice liquid now costs me literally thousands of dollars to buy these different things. People say, "Well, how come it's so expensive?" Well, here's a list of different things that I buy, and I do that on purpose, because you don't need to buy all these things. All you need to do is pick a few great products. I would watch Leighton a lot, and he'll tell you if any of these products are any good or not. That's what you want. Some are good, some are just fake. See ya, Earthlings. To water plants. Bye, food forest. Awesome.
There's so much that we put in that most people don't understand we're putting in. Like, you're talking putting in the rock dusts, etc., into your compost, even before it ever makes it to the worm bin, so that it's all broken down already before your worms eat it. It's already been processed. And that all adds up in time and money and, just the thought process even.
Yes. Yeah, it's just the way you cook. So the more experience I have, that's what you're buying. Whatever it is I do, you're buying it because I'm an experienced cook at this. You see?
Yeah.
But the point is to get started. Actually, if you start making your compost and you make so I made an amazing compost tea. But again, the compost tea, you have to use it right away. You can't just let it sit there. The same thing. So I have a ready to use. That means that when I add it to the 100 gallons I spray, I always have some left. I sell that for $30 a gallon. They back up to my truck, and I just pour it off of my machine, $30 a gallon. And then I have another version of the ready to use. The ready to use basically is before. So I have this liquid that normally adds to 100 gallons. That's another liquid there, and I sell that one for the same $150 a quart is what I sell it for. And that quart will make 100 gallons easy.
Yeah.
See? If you use it properly. So it's just there's so many ways you can make money off, and do like I do. You do a business spraying on people's places. The key here is spraying. You can give them the liquid. That people come to buy a liquid and they pour it around. They do a little hand spraying, but they do not get the whole property, and that's important. That's the key to it. So if a plant's dying over here and you're spraying thinking you're going to heal it, and ignore it. So if you try to just feed the finger, ignore the body, you're not going to get too well with that finger.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, oh, my finger hurts. I want to do. I said, well, I have to help your body first. I have to heal your body. The finger will come along for the ride. Right. And that's experience. You have to learn experience how to heal the finger. People concentrate on the finger. Oh my God, what I do? What you really should be concentrating is on your stomach, which feeds the finger, feeds the body, feeds everything else. The stomach is the same thing as the soil biology, because you have your soul, but your body biology, right?
Yeah. Your gut biology, which is breaking down the material you're ingesting.
Right. And so so the soil remediation, I wanted to bring it up. I wanted to tell people that, remember, you have to do soil remediation all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time, on a regular basis. It has to be something. So I was at this place this morning. How long do we have to add this compost? We should, the lady, you only done 1/10 of the property. You haven't even started yet on the whole property. Well, everything's looking good. That's because I've been spraying it with nutrition and biology. But if I stop doing that, there's nothing that will be feeding them. The soil is not working. Says you're killing the plants. No, these plants are dying because they're starving. The roots are no longer working, and then the top, as above, so below. If the bottom doesn't work, the top is not going to work.
Well, if you don't have the biology to build the cells of that plant, and you are only building a leaf instead of it being like, we'll use like an inch, where the leaf is supposed to be 10 inches.
It's not going to get enough.
Got enough biology to build that inch. You don't have a healthy plant.
No, you don't
at all.
You have a stressed out plant. So that was what happened to another customer. So they have gardeners, and I go there twice a month and spray their place. And what's happening now? The lady finally, after 20 years, said, "Okay, we're going to take all the soil out. We're going to put new soil in. We're going to grow some worms, and the worms will guide us. If the worms die, the soil is too toxic." I mean, this lady would go to the nursery and buy thousands and thousands of dollars of plants, bring them in and plant them, and they would only last a few months, 3 or 4 months. They would die, and she would do it again. And she said, "Why is everything dying?" Well, because if you tested your soil, which, by the way, Leighton, I finally brought in my soil engineer, and he's testing the soil, and you can see that it's toxic, because they've been bringing these chemical fertilizers on a regular basis. And when they plant them, you have these little purple balls, right? Those things,
Yeah.
And no worm in their right mind is going to live there. When my favorite thing to tell people when I go to people's properties, I'll give you $100 for every first worm you find. And on your place.
Where you are, they ain't find nothing.
No, they don't find anything. But the customers that I take care of, it's hard not to dig where the worms are not growing. You see, and those are indicators that you're doing the right thing. Indicators you're doing the wrong thing is sick plants, sick trees, the diseases. I tell people, they come to me and say, "Andy, I have an ant problem." I said, "Lady, you don't have an ant problem. You have a soil problem. You have a soil biology problem." By the way, I keep thanking you because, I always tell people soil, microbes. But now when you say soil biology, they go, "I think I understand what you're talking about, soil biology." Because people say, "How can the soil be alive?" Right? It's a dead thing. It's nothing no. It's not the soil. It's not how can the building be alive. It's the people who are living in the building.
Exactly.
That is what it's alive. Go ahead. What's the question?
Jay Dixon, question. I have access to 15 to 20 pails of SMS spent mushroom substrate from sawdust origins. What are some of the best ways to use it?
If you had a worm farm, we'll put it in the worm farm. You have a compost bin. I would put it start putting it in the compost. I'm assuming you're doing none of them. Maybe you are, so that would be good to add. You definitely can make a tea out of it and start spraying the heck out of it everywhere. Definitely could do that. So you learn how to use the clean water, and when you make a tea, you want to add a few other things to it to enhance it. Coffee is really good. The organic coffee is iron, got a lot rich in iron and magnesium and calcium. That's coffee, and coffee has like 40 or 50 trace minerals. Because coffee also happens to be what do we call it last show? The accumulator plant.
Yeah.
They just bring up whatever it's growing in the soil, and including toxins. So that's one of the reasons why you always have to be careful with accumulator plants and have your soil tested, because a lot of times if your soil really heavy toxic, your plants are going to be heavy toxic. Herbs are accumulator plants. That's why you have to be real careful. Oh, my time is up. My cat's waving at me saying, "Your time is up. Your time is up." What? Leave me alone, cat. Sorry, I can talk.
guys. We're at the hour. You know, the basics on soil remediation.
I'm not here. I'm not here.
Yeah, Andy's still invisible. Tomorrow, the ladies actually have the day off from The Soil is Sexy. On Sunday, we should have 2 shows. I've got the creator of SOS Save Our Soils. Let me just make sure I pronounce his name correctly. Looking at it, I don't have it here. Anyway, yeah, he's coming on with me on Sunday morning. Then we'll have our regular show Sunday afternoon with Dr. Paula Ruffin. And then Monday, we actually have Rebecca Tickle. I think that's how you pronounce it. But her and her husband created a whole bunch of different movies. There's over, I think, 2 billion people watch these movies.
Is that Josh Tickle? Yeah, he said Kiss the Ground.
Yeah, Kiss the Ground and those ones. It's his wife, his partner and wife, that's going to be on with Leighton Morrison on Monday. And then we've got Matthew Truman on Friday with me, and then he's on Monday with Leighton. So, and that's one of Dr. Elaine Ingham's students and helpers on her farm in Washington. So there's lots of great content coming up, guys. And
I'll be visible.
Andy and I next week. What's that, Andy?
I'll be visible sooner or later.
We'll figure out how what the heck's going on with your camera, and get you back on to be visible, brother.
Yes, sir. Take care, everybody. Have a good time. Bye. Remember, only you can prevent forest fires.
All right, guys. Peace out. We'll see you here in a few days.
Bye now.